The nature of supporting tissues, will divide it into two parts. First is the hard tissue, soft tissue, and second is your hard tissue. So starting with the soft tissue, you have two types of mucosa, that is the keratinized mucosa as well as non-keratinized mucosa. The keratinized mucosa is going to have a layer of keratin over the layer of stratum corneum, right? Over the top layer, that is your stratum corneum. In your oral cavity, in the oral mucous membrane, there is a layer of keratin, right? So this layer of keratin is helpful in resisting the vertical forces, right? Along with that, there is a layer of submucosa present, which is going to act as a hydraulic cushion, or it is going to act as an stress breaker. Also you can say it is going to act as a compressible tissue, which is going to harness the occlusal or vertical forces reaching towards the bone. So the keratinized layer as well as the submucosa, and there are also bands of connective tissue running in the lamina propria just beneath the basement membrane. So along with the lamina propria, submucosa and the keratinized layer, it is the ability of keratinized mucosa to resist the forcing, that is resist the vertical forces acting towards the basal sheet tissues. Whereas in non-keratinized mucosa, you don't have that advantage. There is no layer of keratin present. Along with that, the submucosa is also not efficient enough to resist the forces. So now there are also situations where thin mucosa is present over an edentulous ridge. That thin mucosa is not capable enough to resist the forces in downward direction. If it is a mandibular denture, right, so all the forces which are going to act are going to be in downward direction. So these forces, if thin mucosa is present, then it can cause pain or soreness in that area, because the mucosa is very much thin enough. It has not got that ability to resist the forces. That cushioning effect will not be there. So this, due to this, there will be impingement of soft tissues, right, between the denture base and the bony foundation whenever there is occlusal forces. So if you relieve, then this minimizes the soft tissue trauma, and also you reduce the pressure induced bony remodeling. So what we are saying is the thin mucosa over the edentulous ridge should be relieved. When you relieve this mucosa, there is no impingement of soft tissues between the bony foundation as well as the denture base. So when this impingement is reduced, there will be minimal trauma to these tissues. Along with that, there will be less or minimum amount of bony remodeling induced due to the vertical occlusal forces. Along with that, some parts of mastocytoid mucosa, as I said, without a distinct submucosal layer, the submucosal layer is not capable enough to resist the vertical forces, but there is some connective tissue of lamina propria which firmly binds the mucosa to the underlying periosteum. So in the case of non-keratinized mucosa, here the submucosa is not capable enough, but there is some lamina propria present which is binding this mucosa to the bone, right? So in that case, although it is not effective in providing resiliency or a cushioning effect, still it serves as a protective base for the mucosa. But you should not consider such kind of mucosa as a primary supporting or stress bearing area. Now another requirement of ideal support is presence of tissues that are relatively resistant to remodeling and resorptive changes. Now here I am going to talk about the hard tissues. Till now we were discussing about the soft tissues. Now moving on to the hard tissues, that is, there should be some tissues or bony landmark that is resistant to remodeling as well as resorptive changes. So whenever there is application of force, that bone should be capable to withstand remodeling as well as resorption, right? That is the main primary concern. So when we see residual ridge resorption, right, there is a resorption of residual ridge, that is a continuous process. Now this residual ridge resorption, as described by many authors, it varies between different patients. There is no single rate of residual ridge resorption because there are n number of factors involved in residual ridge resorption. Along with that, the characteristic biological makeup of the individual, that is, what is the physiology or the morphology of bone present with that individual, what are the physiological conditions, anatomical factors. There are various factors which are responsible for residual ridge resorption. Along with that, the intrinsic bone factor as described by various authors is also considered as an important factor. Nowadays we see that if you want to check the quality of bone, we mainly prioritize on the intrinsic bone factor. You can also measure the ability of bone to resist remodeling as well as resorption under the conditions of various stressful conditions like minor oral surgeries like extraction or disimpaction, right? So like this, in minor oral surgeries like extraction or disimpaction, you can see there is excessive resorption in the first 6 months after extraction. So in these cases, when how the bone is responding towards the stressful condition, you can see the amount or the potential of the intrinsic bone factor to resist the remodeling as well as resorption. Next, there are two laws which we keep in mind, that is the Wolff's law as well as the pressure tension concept, right? Wolff's law states that whenever there is functional loading or any stress is applied to bone, then the bone is going to react or it is going to remodel according to the amount and direction of stress, right? So this is Wolff's law. Wolff's law states that the bone is going to remodel according to the stresses which are applied on that, the pressure as well as the force applied on that. Whereas the pressure tension concept says that wherever in the areas of bone you apply pressure, there is going to be resorption. Wherever there is tension, there is going to be deposition of bone. Tension in the sense like the places where you have muscle attachments, so or you have tendons, muscle attachment tendons. So in this area, whenever the force is applied, it is going to create tension which is going to have osteoconductive properties. So it is going to initiate bone deposition, whereas when you apply pressure, the direct force is directed towards bone, there is no tension created, which is going to cause resorption ultimately, right? So this is the Wolff's law as well as the pressure tension concept. Now when we talk about the cortical bone, and you also have the cancellous bone. So cortical bones have a greater ability, cortical bones have a greater ability to resist what? To resist remodeling and resorptive changes, right? So whenever we are going to make denture, or denture is going to lie on the cortical bone. This is a section of mandibular bone as well as the molar. So we have sectioned. So in this section you can see enamel, you can see dentine, you have your pulp chamber, furcation area. These are your roots and teeth embedded in the alveolar socket. Along with that, outside over here you have your cortical bone, that is your outer buccal cortex and the lingual cortex. In between you have your cancellous bone. So this cortical bone outside, when this teeth is extracted, your bone will be somewhat like this, right? So when this teeth is extracted, your denture is going to lie on this cortical bone. So this cortical bone is more resistant to resorption compared to cancellous bone.